That said, why don't we get started? Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Saturday, January 13th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are coming through with today. I am not surprised to see it, my friends. We've got our Hermit here. Why am I not surprised to see this card today? Because we had this card in its reversal yesterday. One of the things that we're seeing right now is everybody needs to go. I was describing this yesterday as like everybody needs to go into their mind palace for a second. There's a lot of like brain teasers that's happening right now energetically coming out of this Capricorn new moon. Masculine and feminine in divine union right now. This is, again, one of the things that we see has been creating a little bit of a friction space, even for the energy in divine union right now, there is a very different discernment in what you are doing energetically right now. I even describe this as this moment that masculine and feminine are almost moving in the same vibration at different frequencies right now, even in the divine union, because the path work is a little bit different. Masculine, a lot more practical application right now is being required around circumstances or situations. Feminine is doing a lot more internalized discernment right now that isn't necessarily looking so much like a lot of like present activity, so much as a lot of unpacking within the self right now as it relates to what feminine energy wants to do in the practical space to amplify the work of the internal karmic healing that's occurring. Masculine and feminine moving in this modality right now, even potentially recognizing that, again, feminine, you may be seeing that there's a masculine around you right now, that while you are building a lot of your own framework on watching them move and seeing how they move and getting points of advice from them, it is a little different. We've even seen over the last few weeks, days, there's been that amplification of feminine saying that something about the way masculine would handle something or address something isn't necessarily the way that feminine wants to. And that ability of discernment, feminine almost holding back. And one of the things that we brought up yesterday is the reason is because feminine energy realizes that one of the reasons they see masculine in the divine union frequency right now, moving with such confidence, moving with such bigger gestures, is because they're there to give them that like silent energetic support, if you will. Feminine realizes that masculine is a lot easier, a lot better at giving feminine that practical confidence. Masculine's all about telling the feminine to look like just rush forward into it, just go all in. But feminine also realizes that they don't have that energy of conservativeness as it relates to their own energetic frequency that they're going to get from the masculine, simply because it's not in the nature of the masculine vibration to be able to provide it. Feminine energy realizing and recognizing this discernment is almost why we see feminine moving a little bit slower right now in this way, because feminine energy is trying to utilize their own path of foresight and preparation, as it were, as it relates to their plans. And the problem that feminine's almost identifying right now is this is feminine energy being very much in their headspace. Feminine energy even realizes and recognizes right now that they have an ability and capacity to sometimes get too much in their own head. And this is why we see that the feminine energy is almost like even recognizing that is getting in their own head. But we see that feminine is utilizing this right now and almost recognizing that feminine is trying to lay that path forward. Feminine's not doing this right now and spinning their wheels. Feminine is doing this as a deep energy of internally seeking what they are trying to feel is a energetic snarl, if you will. I told you what this challenge is for a lot of feminine energy in this modality right now. Trying to unpack the quandary on how you can fix something or bring healing into something without necessarily over-giving to situations and circumstances that do not give back in kind. Masculine, you are also coming into a bit of a hermit mode right now. This is less to do with that snarl internally, so much as it has to do externally. Because what we've been seeing for masculine energy is the fact that something that you put forward prior to the Mercury retrograde, which just closed up, is now turning back on. You're seeing the results of those actions. It may feel like it's been about a month in coming, but it's presently showing it's showing that reactivity point. You're seeing the results of your efforts. for good or for poor right now. Masculine in this modality right now, it's almost immediately causing a moment of pulling back because now it's that point of assessment and observation prior to taking further action. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is more of that same energy. It's masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now is really going into hermit mode. There's going to be a lot of this energetically just kind of pulling back and recalling your energy. Why? Because we've been seeing that the last month has almost been a gauntlet of activity, even during that retrograde cycle of masculine and feminine having to utilize some point of discernment in recognizing and seeing what energetically is going to stay in alignment with them coming into divine union versus what feels like it is just falling away as a result. So we see that for the energy right now, we are also seeing at the same time, feminine is opening up to masculine in a way that they haven't before. Masculine is absorbing that if they're coming into divine union. So this ability right now, this fastidiousness is almost masculine and feminine coming together even more right now because it's not just the fact that you're enjoying each other's company. You feel like you're learning about a lot about each other right now, wanting to delve deeper, wanting to see. In a way, I see here, I have to stress, we were giving that moment of potentially feeling like something that was just like loosely spoken about in the past. It's like now is that delving in, getting more details, diving deeper into each other. But that's almost in a way an amplification of the progress of coming into the divine union because it's being amplified right now in the sense of recognizing that you've reached this level due to the fact that a lot of trust has been built that is allowing you to reach this level of understanding of each other, that's allowing for a lot of internal investigation. Masculine and feminine energy and separation right now. We've seen yesterday was a lot of heavy energy. Yesterday was some pretty monumental shifts that were potentially occurring around some circumstances and situations. Energy either got affirmation or confirmation that something could start to lead back into divine union right now, or there was clarity that something would not. And that is why we see this Hermit card here, because that is the light of that is being shed on something. It is that point of insight. It is that point of clarity. And it can feel very sobering, because this isn't a false light. This is a harsh light. This is a light that's showing you that something might not necessarily be perfect, but you're being able to see the full reality of a circumstance or situation. And for some, that is going to feel like a breakthrough because it's giving you some ability to see something that you didn't before. You're getting that clarity from one another, and it is potentially leading to some very deep investigative conversations. For others, this is that modality of kind of accepting something for what it is, seeing something for what it is, seeing what it's not for what it is, especially if this is a modality where someone is effectively asked the other person to provide that level of insight, that clarity of purpose and intentionality. If someone is coming into a place where they're either refusing to or they cannot, even that feels like a breakthrough, because that is the clarity if someone cannot do that. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread. This is that death card in its reversal. For energy right now in separation, if there are modalities wherein one person or the other ask the other one to provide clarity, to tell someone, not forcing someone into a modality, not telling someone this is where I am, are you there or not, asking someone, what is your ideal? Why are you coming towards me? What is it that you seek? Tell me the shape of the thing you want to create with me. If there's energy right now, I told you there's really only one path that's leading to some very finite and conclusive closing out of cycles. And what's interesting about those karmic closure points is it's not even going to feel unhealed. It's going to feel like healing immediately comes towards it at the time of this is experienced, because it's allowing the clarity and insight as to why that is effectively happening. What we are seeing right now is if masculine or feminine recognizes a modality where they have asked the other energy to provide clarity and intentionality of purpose, and the energy cannot, then that is, again, a modality of feminine and masculine seeing something that can go no further, that feels like it is a stuck point, that feels like it is like almost effectively a dead end, because that is masculine and feminine either feeling and observing that, as we said, this is either energy that does not know what it is that they seek and desire, which is problematic because it doesn't allow you to be in a modality of co-creating something together, or this is energy that is refusing to be open and articulate on what it is that they truly desire for fear of allowing the other energy the opportunity and possibility of choosing whether they themselves want to be in that same level or frequency. That is why we see that even the lack of clarity here is the clarity. The lack of clarity is the clarity here for a lot of energy, which is why this is leading to potentially a lot of breakthroughs, because this is allowing for a lot of karmic cycles to potentially close, but not even in an unhealed way, to close in a nice healed way of someone observing that that is the case. Masculine and feminine that are recognizing this right now, this is that amplification of potentially explaining and offering if this is something that is just being presented. If this is something that someone is finally opening up about, this is almost explaining why there wasn't that clarity prior. Remember, we said that some of the energy was moving into a modality that was very difficult. The blockage wasn't necessarily due to a lack of a desire to do so right now, but recognizing that it was going to have to require a little bit of backwards explaining, a little bit of backpedaling in saying why something wasn't stated prior to this. This is the progression of that conversation if something is now getting clarity. But again, we see that the point of productivity right now for the energy that's moving back into the divine union frequency from this point isn't going to be caught or allowing yourself to get stuck on why something wasn't presented before, so much as allowing the breakthrough and recognizing that someone now sees that the way that they were moving was previously a hurdle or blockage is that point of breakthrough. Then this is, again, having a lot of potential possibility and coming back into divine union. Masculine and feminine that are coming in the divine, that are moving into the divine union frequency right now. And these are very close. You see here. Do you see how close these are now moving together? We are seeing energetically right now, this is that modality of potentially recognizing the hurdles that may have prevented you from coming into divine union prior to this. That amplification, and this is why we see that the energy maintaining the energy, like moving into the divine union right now, isn't afraid of having a hard conversation. Because having a hard conversation sheds light on the blockages. Shedding light on the blockages is what is required, because once you shed light on a problem, once you shed light on a blockage, well, then you can start to discuss how you fix it. So that's where we see now, and this is very interesting because the energy right now that is in separation is very close to the energy coming into divine union. This is why I said right now the possibility for a lot of this energy to move back into divine union is very high right now. Masculine and feminine coming in that are in the divine union frequency, this is that modality that is intriguingly not so much based on a lot of active work right now. This is actually instead intentionally putting a pause point in. Why do I say that this is intentionally putting a pause point in right now? Because again, what have we been seeing energetically for the energy in divine union? This has been a work and an action about trying to recognize the difference between moving reactively, allowing one's own unhealed triggers to motivate you, as opposed to moving with intentionality of purpose. What have we identified that the energy in the divine union is recognizing? They are recognizing that the way that they can tell whether they are moving in a triggered way or whether they are bringing healing to something is their own ability to control their own actions around something. So even now, we see energetically that this is that moment that the energy in the divine union frequency is almost intentionally slowing things down, almost allowing themselves a little bit of a pause point as they continue this transformation cycle so that they can observe where they are right now. This is moving with intentionality. This is intentional. This is not feeling so much like a blockage, so much as an intentional choice to allow oneself a pause point. It's going to feel a little bit like a Saturday that feels like a Sunday for the energy in the divine union frequency. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, why is the energy in divine union, slowing things down right now. Because again, we see that masculine and feminine energy have been doing a lot of different path work in a lot of different directions right now in this modality. Masculine and feminine aren't necessarily doing the same thing. We even observed the other day, yesterday's reading, there was an observation point in clarifying and saying to each other that you can only do as much as you can to help the other if you have optics on what the other is doing and where they're going and what that directionality looks like. So right now we see that a lot of that slowdown that's occurring right now for the energy in the divine union frequency is more about, it's going to feel more about, we see that a lot of that slowdown that's occurring right now for the energy in the divine union frequency is more about, it's going to feel more about change going forward that's going to allow for an easement in productivity. So again, a bit more energy today, a lot of potential planning right now, a lot of observation, a lot of, again, amplifying the choices, amplifying the blockages, all so that you can have a little bit of that mutual energetic breakthrough as it relates to the path going forward. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency, this is also amplifying a little bit of that slowdown energy. Having that moment right now, having that slowdown, a little bit of that slowdown energy. Having that moment right now, having that slowdown, recognizing the challenges. Bear with me one moment. Recognizing the challenges. Bear with me one moment, please. Apologies on that. We are going to continue. Continuing clarification right now on these cards. Clarification right now with our 8 of Swords. Masculine and feminine energy in divine union. This observation point, this intentional slowing down, if you will, this ability right now to identify that you are doing that almost as an act of intentional choice is what is effectively allowing you to look at something right now, not necessarily allowing yourself to get reactive, but more allowing this to be a point of observation, a point of consideration, to be able to identify and recognize what the hurdles are so that you can come into mutual agreement on how to address and move beyond them. So again, the energy right now in the divine union frequency, this is feeling a lot like breakthrough energy, specifically due to the fact that we are seeing that you are intentionally making the choice to slow things down today, all for the sake of coming into better alignment together. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now, this is amplifying the openness that you are experiencing with one another at this time. This ability right now to see and to look at the blockages, opening up to each other more, potentially being vulnerable in ways that you haven't. Do you see how close this is to the energy and separation right now? The ability right now to have those difficult conversations, not to allow those difficulties to feel like they're endpoints, but rather assessing, addressing your own perspectives for the sake of coming into mutual agreement is effectively that break from the past cycles, because that is that amplification on seeing something right now and wanting to identify each other's limiting beliefs. This point of clarification, your own perception feels like it is advantageous to you because this is almost the energy that you are coming into union with, showing you your own limitations in thinking, all to lead to better productive outcomes. Masculine and feminine in separation, this is why we see the possibility of coming back into union right now is so amplified, is so strong. The energy in separation right now is very, very close to the energy that's potentially coming back into divine union. The ability to move into that work right now is very high, specifically due to the fact that we see that for the energy that is approaching this right now from a state of curiosity, I have to stress here, the energy in separation, not coming into a place of demanding something from the other energy, but moving from an inquiry-led approach. Asking the energy, tell me what it is you want. Tell me the shape of what it is that you desire. Explain to me if I've identified a hurdle or a blockage, what I've seen. And if I've gotten it wrong, give me clarity on that as well. The ability to assess that right now is potentially allowing for breakthrough points, because it is that modality that if the other energy is at least willing to express and to articulate to the other what they desire, that is allowing a moment of comparison, of being able to see what one person wants versus what another person wants, to see if there's any place that those two desires meet. And having that ability right now, it may feel a little bittersweet because it is articulating and amplifying limitations, the difference between what one person wants versus what another person wants. But again, for the energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, that observation point isn't coming through as a feeling of a hard and fast boundary. It's almost amplifying a moment for the energy coming out of separation and back into divine union, a point of seeing something from a different perspective and asking themselves if what one person wants feels like it is allowing for a bit of flexibility, if it's allowing for a bit of change, finding that malleability and coming into meeting of paths, if you were, or if that feels like it's a bridge too far, if something that one person desires isn't what the other person desires, if that feels like something that feels more like it is not necessarily a boundary within the self that needs to be broken so much as it is a comfortable boundary for someone, this even now could potentially lead to energy moving back out into separation. But most importantly, it's happening in a healthy way. It's happening in a place of clarity, an observation, in almost saying to each other at that moment, what you desire and what I desire are a little too far apart. But recognizing that even at that moment feels like a healing moment because it is the observation that it isn't necessarily an act of rejection. It's not necessarily energy saying, I don't have caring for you, I don't have love. It is an observation that what one person desires feels like it is pulling the other one off of their own karmic path. So even there we see that the healing is occurring, which is what we like to see. Masculine and feminine. The only way we see that this is a completion of a cycle right now is, again, if energetically one or the other energy said to the other, please tell me, just be honest, give me that clarity of purpose, give me that intentionality, tell me what it is you want. The only thing we're seeing here that's potentially leading to, again, total separation is a modality wherein someone is not being open about that, is not being, again, clear and intentional. Because again, that is energetically being observed by the other counterpart energy as someone who either does not know what they want, is moving haphazardly through the experience of their journey, or someone who is intentionally trying to keep someone from seeing and understanding what they intend because they would rather move them into the position that they desire them to be as opposed to being a co-creator in that experience. So we see here that even now, that observation point with some energy of feeling like that is almost allowing a healed karmic ending on things, because that's that moment of someone seeing something and saying, you know what, it's better that we go our separate ways because what you want and what I want is not going to mesh. Because that's almost the energy of someone saying, I want to be a co-creator and you don't necessarily want to be a co-creator with me and what we are building within our relationship. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 9 of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine in divine union. This ability right now to intentionally slow things down. It doesn't feel like so much, again, the intentionality is the point. The energy right now in the divine union frequency, that ability to take a pause, that ability to give each other that pause point is the gift of the divine union. Because again, you're not in a rush because you don't have anywhere to go. You're already in the divine union frequency. This is more about overcoming hurdles, overcoming blockages. And we see that the energy right now in that frequency is doing this almost as a moment of slowing things down to make sure that you're in alignment, especially because we saw something happening over the last few days that was almost amplifying some feelings right now of potential frustration, even in the divine union, in the feeling of one person having to be moving in one modality, another energy having to move in another modality, still almost working in the same, like working on different fronts, if you will, but making sure to be able to have those midpoints, those meeting points to come back together, even if you're required to do that right now, is almost allowing the energy in the divine union to observe how to make the communication and the situations even easier, even when you're working in that capacity. Because we see here, energetically, the divine union, it's not the feeling that you need to be doing everything the same exact way at every moment. In fact, the beauty of the divine union is the ability to be flexible like this, is the ability to be working in different fronts, in different modalities. One person can be in the kitchen while the other one's in the basement. You can do that type of work. The important thing is being able to make sure that you're both on the same page as you do so. And that's why we see some of this slowdown today is occurring, to see how to make that even easier. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This observation point, this ability to start to do this for one another, this recognition that it's not about pretending that things are okay when they're not, but instead almost immediately calling an energetic pause to things when they aren't in alignment so that you can get into better alignment, is something that you're now learning the hang of. Again, energetically, there may be some feeling of energy coming out of separation back into divine union with the ability to do this. Seeing energetically someone has either learned how to do this now, has a different perspective, or that someone is more willing to be vulnerable in identifying what was a blocker for staying and maintaining divine union in the past. That is why we see now, energetically, the energy coming into divine union is basically, I have to stress this, this is the energy coming into divine union, like forging the gap right now between the energy and separation and divine union right now. Because this path work is very similar. It's very nuanced. This is effectively energy right now, observing the blockages that are preventing a more perfect divine union. So we see here that the energy right now, having that point of observation, is effectively something that you're permitting and allowing. And that's why we see energetically, you're putting a lot of energy and attention into the other person. Even potentially having that moment of feeling like there's a lot of like solitude that you're creating within each other and the experience that you're creating right now, because this is feeling a lot like you're identifying, you're trying to understand something better so you can understand what feels like that limitation, and recognizing the boundaries within another person is almost helping you recognize and identify what needs healing. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see a lot of energy is potentially coming back into union right now. Because the ability right now for energy to effectively be able to look at circumstances and situations right now. And again, if these are energies in circumstances and situations wherein one has said to the other that they are seeking clarity of purpose and intentionality, simply not even like starting from ground one, starting from like the first level, saying, tell me what it is you want, so I can see if we are in alignment. The ability to do that right now is allowing like this beautiful Venn diagram to occur, wherein again, masculine, if you are taking feminine up on this ability, if you are saying to feminine what you want, this isn't potentially, for some of the masculine energy, there is some energy here that you may be having a feminine saying that's not necessarily what I'm seeking. They're too far, they're too distant. But for a lot of the energy right now, what you're potentially seeing is a feminine that is now amplifying to you what they want, and you're seeing where those two things come into alignment, where they meet. There may be some areas outside of each, but it isn't necessarily leading to a breakage point. It's leading to a point of observing the spaces that you are not necessarily in alignment, to identify if those are hard boundaries, if those are things that feel like they are make or breaks, that one is not willing to relinquish, or if those are self-limiting beliefs that someone is adaptable for. This is how we build healthy relationships. We identify what it is that we seek in it to the other, and then we see if our models merge with each other. We see if that ability is there, and then we see how flexible we are with the things that fall outside of that purview. So for the energy that's doing this right now, this is even feeling a point of productivity, even at a point where you're recognizing where you may not be aligned. And in a way, being able to have the discussion in the nuances of where you're not aligned is further amplifying the ability of potentially coming back into divine union, because it is seeing a misalignment and utilizing it as a point of productivity. For some of the energy right now, I will articulate and amplify, this may lead to a final separation point. But what we like about this separation point is this isn't an unhealed separation. This is a separation point that immediately is karmically healed, because it is coming from a place of deep personal understanding and insight, complete understanding on why something didn't work out or why something cannot be in divine union. Because again, either that is someone who is energetically looking at something and saying, this person came towards me with integrity. This person came towards me with clarity. This person came towards me with intentionality. I did the same. I recognize that we did not necessarily effectively desire the same things. And we made the mutual agreement and decision that meant that this is something that we need to separate and that we needed to go our separate ways. That is a healthy, healed closure point of a karmic journey. Others right now, it may feel a little bit messier, but it's still feeling like a healed closure of a karmic journey. Because again, if this is someone who energetically said to someone, something you've shown me is not in alignment, I need you to give me clarity and intentionality of purpose. If someone here is either refusing to do so or unable to do so, this is also leading to a closure of cycle, because we are seeing here that is almost allowing the energy in it to observe and to say to themselves, this is someone who either does not know what they want, they have no intentionality of purpose, or they have an intentionality of purpose, but they are refusing to give that opportunity of choice to me as it relates to it. They feel that need or that inability to express it. And that in itself is creating an impossible barrier through which I cannot move forward, because it is asking me just to effectively muddle through, to hang around. It's not allowing you to be a co-creator. It's allowing you to just kind of be in a placement in someone's life and experience and not having the visibility on what that is. That is also allowing for the closing of a cycle, because that is almost energy saying that is not a modality that I feel comfortable inhabiting. That is too uncomfortable, that takes away the autonomy of choice. And that's why we see a lot of energy moving away from that. But again, not necessarily in a way that feels argumentative, almost trying to immediately heal something, because it's almost saying to another energy, we are in different places. And you're showing me through your actions that you're not ready for the type of relationship that I am effectively ready for. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hermit in combination with our Death card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. One of the things that we're seeing here right now, masculine potentially amplifying even to feminine right now. And this is why we see to a certain extent that some of this slowdown is occurring. Just as feminine right now is doing a lot of internal processing, masculine almost needs some of this slowdown right now if in divine union, specifically due to the fact that we are seeing here that for a lot of the masculine energy, seeing that point, getting that something energetically back around circumstances and situations that may have started prior to the beginning of the Mercury retrograde cycle is almost a moment where the masculine's own confidence, passion, creativity is flagging a little bit here. Masculine needs a little bit of restorative time right now, even in the divine union frequency. Something that has occurred over the last few days, and I'll stress here, this is due to the fact that we see that while feminine has been going through a lot of this internally, masculine feels like they've been doing a lot of work externally in this way. Masculine feels like they've had to really operate on a lot of different fronts right now over the last week. And that ability to do so, this point of exhaustion, and this is potentially what feminine is trying to amplify to masculine right now if in divine union. That feeling of exhaustion, or that feeling of like just feeling a little bit like passionately or creatively exhausted right now, isn't due to a lack of effort right now on the part of masculine. It's more due to the observation of needing and requiring some time to oneself, some time to rest. And this could be amplifying right now a masculine energy that feels a little bit frustrated, because it's almost this masculine energy, even if in divine union right now, desiring and needing some of this private space, wanting some of that time to themselves, but almost feeling to a certain extent that they can't necessarily afford to have it right now. So this could be a conversation that's coming up right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency. Feminine, one of the things that we appreciate if you're going through this modality with masculine right now is you're recognizing potentially this isn't due to a lack of passion on the part of the masculine energy, though some energy, even in the divine union right now, may take that the wrong way. This is almost a masculine energy. I have to stress, if there's energy right now in divine union and masculine says that they need a little time to themselves, that isn't due to anything that the feminine is doing. It has a lot more to do with the fact that masculine feels like they've had to serve the needs of a lot of energy right now around them. And having that creates these moments that require masculine to effectively recharge their battery, if you will. Feminine, you may be recognizing and seeing this right now. So again, being able to have that point of recognition, that point of empathy, looking at this right now, may be this modality of helping masculine through that feeling. Because again, this is almost a masculine energy that's feeling bad about their own need for solitude. And this is how the feminine is almost helping the masculine that's in this modality right now by almost trying to affirm to masculine that their ability to have some time to themselves, their ability to take some time to rest, to come into that modality, is not showing a lack of ability on the part of the masculine. It's showing a masculine that's been doing a lot of work right now. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, one of the things that may be happening has to do with, again, that moment or modality of feeling that something about that point of opening up may have felt like it was delayed. But again, it may be leading to a lot of difficult conversations, even if coming into divine union right now, because this is that moment that if you're opening up more to a masculine right now, and it's feeling like you waited, this is almost feminine potentially amplifying to masculine that there may have been some uncertainty as to whether they were moving into divine union or not. The feminine energy's own trepidation in opening up is a direct result of potentially experiences, and this is why we see feminine may be articulating to masculine, experiences in the past wherein masculine energy did not seem as driven on their own path of maintaining divine union. And this is why we see that feminine may be articulating and amplifying to masculine energy right now, that any blockage that they feel is more based on a concern or fear of having masculine opening up in a way that's going to send masculine moving in the opposite direction. Masculine recognizing this on the part of a feminine right now, recognizing a feminine energy that feels that their anxiety is that you'll effectively lose your own confidence in what you're creating with them, lose your own passion for something. That in itself may feel like a bit of a breakthrough, because that is that recognition point that, again, a feminine energy being reluctant or resistant to open up to you isn't a feminine energy that doesn't feel passion or desire for you. It's a feminine energy that fears that you're only coming towards the feminine energy for the purpose of passion and desire. And recognizing and realizing this right now, masculine is almost, again, helping if you're staying and maintaining the divine union frequency to heal, because it's almost that point of observation in recognizing that shift, in recognizing that this ability right now to even move through things right now that have gotten more difficult is reaffirming that this is beyond something that is just in the realms of passion or desire, and more about the connection that you're building with this feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is why we see energetically that the possibility and potentiality of coming back into union right now, if in separation, is so high. Because if this is energy right now that we are recognizing and seeing, wherein a feminine energy has amplified to masculine the way that they were moving, that felt like it was a blockage and a hurdle to be able to go where they had hoped or aspired to with the masculine. If instead of masculine reinforcing that by effectively not communicating or moving away from the feminine, if instead this is masculine energy that is doing that hard work of offering clarity, of amplifying and articulating to feminine and saying, this is what I actually desire, this is what I want. That is a feminine energy that feels like that is a masculine that is not just utilizing feminine for the fulfillment of their passion or their desire center. This is a masculine energy that recognizes that there needs to be a shift that occurs that makes the feminine recognize that they're not just coming towards them exactly and only for that goal. Or at least if they are, that masculine is offering clarity on what that ideal situation or scenario looks like right now. This is why we see that even in this modality right now, the only feeling The only thing that makes the feminine feel like the masculine is only utilizing the feminine to serve their own passion and desire centers is when the masculine energy moves in a way that it feels like it robs the feminine energy of the ability to have some point of choice. And that is why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy right now, the masculine coming into this modality of being able to articulate what it is that they truly seek, what it is that their ideal is, in whatever shape that takes, feels like a point of productivity, because that is a masculine that is saying to the feminine, I am not just utilizing you as something that I can come towards and go away from and not give you that point of clarity. You are not something that is just, I look at you as someone who is not a co-creator. I look at you as someone that is just an object. I look at you as someone that's just here to serve my desire and my needs. That is masculine, allowing for that change, because that is a masculine that's saying, I recognize when I do not do that, I'm effectively doing that. If I'm not providing that clarity in what's between us, if I'm not allowing that observation point, if I'm not willing to have that difficult conversation and be open and honest with you, then that is going to be a blocker in terms of being able to go forward. The energy that's having these difficult conversations right now, there are breakthroughs occurring, because it's amplifying the differences in what one energy wants right now versus another. But the fact that there is a choice that is being offered is the act of the possibility of coming back into some form of divine union, because it is allowing two energies to make the energetic choice on what that connection looks like. Do you understand? That is why we see the energy doing this work right now. It may create a bit of a shift here. It is creating a point of a change. There may even be a moment of masculine recognizing and having to see that there needs to be some adjustment in terms of how they're moving towards feminine, especially if something led to this conversation being required in the first place that felt like it wasn't in alignment. But again, that point of productivity is a breakthrough point that's allowing for better clarity going forward. The problem becoming the solution. For some energy right now, this is why they're falling into, again, what could potentially feel like a final separation point, but it's feeling like a karmically healed separation point, specifically because if this is an energy wherein masculine has articulated what they aspire and a desire for from feminine, and there's no meeting of that Venn diagram, there's no place where the feminine's desire and the masculine's merges, then that's energetically a moment that feminine may be saying to masculine right now, I think we want very different things. And this is not a feminine that's not telling the masculine what the feminine desires. This is feminine almost articulating and saying, what I desire is so far over here, and what you desire is so far over there. Never the twain shall meet. There's no way these two things can play in the same yard. And that's why we see here that even now that's allowing for a healthy karmic healing moment, even in separation. Because it's two energies observing that your paths are taking each other in different directions, and you're kind of giving each other a blessing as you continue forward in that way. For the other energy, there's some energies right now that are shifting what that connection point looks like, because that's a moment that we could see here that feminine could be saying, well, you want this and I want that. We might not be in perfect divine union, but this doesn't mean a complete separation point, because there's this little eye of the needle here that we can merge. So there's a point here between us that works very well for both of our needs. So this is the readjustment and alignment of a connection point that feels healthier, because it's built with healthy boundaries. Even that is allowing for a point of productivity going forward, because it's just not just masculine not providing feminine that clarity. The only place, I'm going to keep saying this, that we're seeing that this is leading to complete, and again, modality of separation that may feel somewhat unhealed, but again, even in it, at least one energy is coming through as being healed. This is almost one energy leaving something healed and the other one potentially not, is if there is a modality wherein someone is saying, give me clarity of purpose and intentionality. If someone is refusing to give that to someone, then that is allowing for a final closing of a healing cycle, because that is an energy that says, I gave them the opportunity. I told them I needed that clarity. I told them I needed that intentionality of purpose. They were not able to provide it for me. They either were not able to, they said they did not know, or they got reactionary, they refused, they tried to become argumentative when I asked for that. And that is feminine energy potentially, or any of this energy saying, That's it. This is an impenetrable wall. There's no ability to change something here because this is potentially an energy that is almost amplifying either, again, through either not knowing what it is that they want, just allowing themselves to follow their desires wherever they lead, or someone energetically who is intentionally not revealing their true desire for the recognizing that would move them out of a place of there's just not this observation point of wanting to be in a modality of being in a partnership that feels like two energies have that modality of choice together. And that's why we see energetically that may be a finite closing out of a cycle with someone just being like, I wish you the best. And the other energy might not necessarily feel as satisfied about it, but that's why it's occurring. Because one energy is like, what you're showing me is showing me something that feels like there's no productive path forward. Clarification between our Death card in its reversal and our Two of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify. This is it. This is what we see where it's really rather beautiful right now for a lot of energy and separation. The flexibility here, the malleability, the ability right now of, again, looking at something and saying, I am seeking one thing in energy. I'm seeking one thing in maintaining that the energy around me is working in the same fashion as I am, that we're on the same page, that we're moving in the same way. It doesn't mean that everybody needs to want the same things, but you need to at least conduct yourself appropriately. You need to at least be going with the flow in a way that feels like it is productive and positive and functional, as opposed to antithetical or oppositional. This is why we see that a lot of the energy right now is taking a little bit of a c'est la vie approach as it relates to these circumstances or situations. Because again, if this is feminine energy looking at a masculine and being like, they want something over here, I want something over there, that's just life. I can't change that. I can't change them. That's good for them. That's theirs. That's their flow. That's what they want. And that's feminine saying, that's okay. That's why feminine's okay with it, because that's feminine saying, I don't want to force my path on someone else. Masculine, you may also be feeling that point of closure right now if you've allowed that blocking of the throat chakra to be moved. If you're almost saying to feminine, well, this is what I want, and feminine's like, it's not really what I want. That's masculine going, okay, well, that's cool. Realizing and recognizing that in itself is a breakthrough, because again, this isn't feeling so much like a feminine that is rejecting you and your desires. It's not coming from a place of rejection. It's coming from an observation that what you aspire and desire are just very different things, right? Masculine and feminine in separation right now that are finding that pathway point by opening up to each other. This could also feel like that breakthrough, because this is a moment that someone's looking and being like, well, I want this. They want that. But you know what? There's a spot right here, right there, that's actually like perfect. And we realize that now. And we realize that we might not be perfect for each other, but that spot there is great. Then that is a moment that, again, it feels like something is becoming positive and healthy and productive again, because it is the observation of what something is by identifying what something is not. While for the energy right now that is coming into union here, this could be a moment of someone being like, well, you know, they want this and I want that. But honestly, the more that we talk about it, I feel like I could be more like this, and they feel like they could be more like that. And suddenly we have that blending. We have that ratio come through. And that's that moment that we see that even now, the description of what one's needs and desires are leads to fertile territory to potentially come into better harmony. But it starts with the ascertaining of the differences. And that's why the differences shouldn't be run from. They should be observed, because they provide context that provides deeper clarification and better flow state. So again, separation right now, the possibility of things coming back into some modality of functionality is huge right now. Welcome, Capricorn new moon. The only thing that's causing a hurdle here that's going to feel impenetrable is a moment where someone says, I gave them the opportunity. I told them I was flexible. I told them that whatever modality they wanted, I wanted to hear it to see if there's a place where our paths could align. If that's an energy that said they declined that, they refused to give it, or they couldn't give it, that was a potentially energy that's now moving further into separation by saying, I couldn't do anything with it. Can't do anything with it. I gave them that opportunity. They could not give me anything that would allow for something productive or functional. Immediate healing of the karmic circle, because that's feminine energy or masculine going, what are you going to do? I couldn't do anything. Can't do anything if someone doesn't give me something to do something with. And that's that moment that, again, moving away from something that just feels like it's a complicated mess and almost asking someone to uncomplicate it. It's almost that moment. It's like, it could be so much simpler. And a lot of energy is going, I'm choosing what's simple if someone can't provide that. It's very simple to become clear. Continuing to get clarification on this, the energy coming into divine union right now, I just described the modality. This is that amplification that we're seeing, that deepening right now, talking more and more about the partnership to get into better alignment. And the energy right now in divine union is doing the same exact work. Like the energy in divine union, it's not a make or break point about whether you're in divine union right now. It's just ascertaining the way you could even do it better. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our death card in its reversal in combination with our 8 of swords in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. We love it. Oh my God, so many choices today. So many choices, but not choices, a consideration point of choices. Keeping one's perspective open, considering the possibilities. Masculine and feminine in divine union right now. Heavy 2 energy today. Masculine and feminine in divine union right now. This ability right now to identify the hurdles is being done to observe what feels like it is a hurdle that is a personal moment of limitation. Something that needs to be amended and corrected for in the self. Something that can be adjusted versus something that feels like it is there for a reason. The energy in divine union right now is doing this work of taking a pause point to ascertain each other's limitations. Also, you can get that collective energy and trying to decide what to do about it. And it's taking that moment. It feels like a lot of regrouping right now, energetically, coming together today to figure out the next approach. And it's not necessarily a day of action. I'm going to say this right now. It's a day of conversation. It's a day of productive conversation, and everybody's got to put their listening ears on today, because this is a moment of, again, really understanding other perspectives to help you move forward in the best way possible. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. Same thing. You're finding out more about each other. You're being more vulnerable than you ever have. This is that moment of potentially recognizing and seeing someone's limitations, their anxieties, their hurdles, their self-limiting beliefs. But again, that point of observation is leading to productivity, because it's helping you, again, help someone recognize their own limitation factors, showing someone something that they can't necessarily see. That is why we see the beauty of divine union, helping each other recognize one another's blind spots. The energy that is in separation right now, this is seeing if you guys have the ability to do this, because again, this modality, a lot of heavy work right now happening for the energy in separation. Really productive right now, because that energy right now, that approach right now of almost saying, this can either be simple or difficult. It doesn't have to be that difficult almost. We're seeing a lot of energy saying it doesn't have to be that difficult. We just need to identify where the problems are. And so we see that for the energy in separation right now, that observation point, not running from the places that you are different, but really trying to refine and understand each other's nuances better, is where we see the productivity and path of coming back into divine union is occurring. Because again, that difference, the identification, sometimes the way we identify something is by identifying what it is and what it is not. That is simply what we need to do. So we see that for a lot of the energy right now, in separation, having these conversations and saying, what is it that you want? What is it that you don't want? Is literally not necessarily just letting yourself fall into that easy comfort zone of being like, you want to be my boyfriend, you want to be my girlfriend. What do you want? What is the shape of that? Tell me what that looks like every day. Tell me what you don't want. Tell me what you've seen that you think would be awful. Having that observation point, that point of refinement and separation right now, is helping each other determine, if you have enough of those mutual agreements of what you want that allows for something that may not be perfect. It may not be exactly the same thing, because it rarely is, but at least you can identify the place where those two meet, that Venn diagram that shows you what this looks like, and asking oneself if you feel like you can, like those boundaries are firm, or if there is wiggle room to allow for a better merging, a better union coming into being. A lot of this right now for the energy and the separation that's doing this, it feels like a lot of deep diving. It's going to feel like a lot of identifying the weakness points, but again, it's not going to be a point of argumentation. It's going to be a point of productivity. The only place we see this leading to complete and total separation right now is that modality of someone who is refusing to do that work in that modality. Someone who feels like they're being intentionally cagey. Someone who feels like they're either desiring to keep someone in the dark, because we see here that that lack of ability to release the throat chakra on this just feels like, from the energy of the outside observer, of someone who is too afraid to manifest what they desire, or doesn't recognize that to be able to manifest their desire requires the point of choice in the energy around them. And that is why we see that this could potentially lead to points of separation right now. But even that separation is almost like a wish you well, namaste kind of moment, because it's the observation of looking at someone and saying, wow, what they want is so departure from what I want, because it's literally saying to me, by them not articulating, that the first thing that they're looking for in partnership is that the other partner doesn't have the gift of choice. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our 8 of Swords in combination with our 9 of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification. It's all about balance. There's always a balance that can be found in everything, but we need to be able to provide the context through which so we can create that balance. Balance is not a one-sided game. Balance cannot be one person being open to everything and the other person revealing nothing. Balance cannot be reached by one person trying to navigate another energy into a place or space that feels like it works well for them, while the other person feels trapped because they have no idea what's going on. Feminine and masculine right now, this is going to feel like a lot of the clearing. This is a lot of beautiful clearing energy here, because this is that moment of observing. Masculine energy, this could feel like a little bit of a breakthrough for you too, because you're potentially realizing that when you don't look at feminine energy from the point of a co-creator, when you don't look at them as someone whose choice needs to be at the same value, at the same point of yours, then there's no balance that can be in anything, because that's a moment of someone feeling not so much like they're moving forward from a place of intentionality and choice, so much as they're just feeling like they're being asked to be like a party to circumstances. And we see here that the feminine energy, being able to amplify this disparity right now, being able to amplify that deviation point between what feels like it is comfortable and being mutually agreed upon, versus places and spaces in the past where someone feels like they weren't getting that clarity that was almost making them feel like they were just kind of having to experience something instead of having that intentionality, is almost allowing right now that moment coming out of separation, moving into the productivity of partnership that is amplifying the ability energetically that feels like it is much more equal, feels like it is much more harmonious. A lot of energy coming out of separation right now. This ability to provide clarity and context will feel like a breakthrough, because it's feeling like you're having a fresh start. But that fresh start is the recognition that you're coming into something from a much more balanced approach than you may have prior in the past. Masculine and feminine that are coming into the divine union frequency, this ability to articulate and amplify situations and circumstances from the past that may have made you feel more like you were trapped, more like you were uncomfortable, more like, again, you weren't, like you didn't have this equality. That ability right now, that definition point, is almost allowing some of that past experience. And this is why we see that a lot of energy right now is potentially delving into this, coming into divine union, because this is almost that modality of experience in recognizing the differentiation point between what you're creating with each other right now, in feeling like you have that point of balance, versus places and spaces that almost made you feel like you were kind of forced to inhabit a role as opposed to building with someone. And that is what we see. That point of modification right now is even being expressed with this sense of being able to articulate those moments either presently right now that feel like they need that modification point, or being able to open up more about past experiences. And again, something that we're seeing here for the energy that's coming into deepening understanding of each other is potentially amplifying why there was some kind of resistance to opening up prior to this in this capacity, because whatever you're opening up about feels like it was very triggering. You may have to be expressing right now that the reason that you weren't able to be that open in the past was because, again, past experiences where that openness didn't lead to equality, but instead led to energy taking advantage. Masculine and feminine in the divine union right now, this ability to recognize, to be incredibly mindful, incredibly present, incredibly prioritizing the point of making sure that the other energy feels comfortable and identifying the places and spaces that they do not. That ability of discernment, that ability of like constantly paying attention and letting that be the priority, not moving quickly, because when you move quickly is often when we see people start to feel more weight like thrown, more like, not necessarily having that intentionality of choice. We see here that even now, today's a day of calibration, conversation that leads to better calibration in terms of how to maintain that balance better. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Wands and its reversal in combination with our World card. One card, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Wands and its reversal. Do you see how these cards right now are matching each other energetically, masculine and feminine? These are difficult conversations. These are difficult conversations across the entire spectrum, because again, this is amplifying the points right now where the frustration point is being reached, to be able to find new productive solutions. Masculine and feminine energy in divine union right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. What is the energy in union doing right now? They are expressing their doubts. They are expressing their fears. They are expressing their concerns for the other to the other energy. All from the sense of doubting in oneself. That doubting in oneself, though, isn't getting potentially amplified by the other energy. It's almost a moment of recognizing what may feel like a shared collective anxiety here, but allowing that to become a point of productivity in terms of how to move going forward. You can't solve a problem unless you articulate and identify what that problem is. So we see here to a moment right now, masculine and feminine in divine union are taking this moment of rest to amplify what isn't working so that they can figure out how to make it work even better. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, you're doing the same thing. And this may be resulting in the fact that you're revealing things to each other that you haven't felt comfortable revealing in the past. That openness and expression is almost something that is now allowing a point of amplification, because you're feeling like by describing your fears and doubts, it doesn't feel like it's becoming a point of conflict so much as it's allowing for productivity to make sure that you're not triggering each other, that you're not exacerbating someone's fears, but you're doing everything you can to correct them. The energy in separation right now, this is why the energy in separation is potentially so close to being able to come back into divine union for a lot of that collective, because we are seeing here that the ability of each energy right now to express what they don't want, what they don't desire, having that moment, masculine, being able to amplify to feminine, that they're not just coming towards them for the sake of fulfilling their desire or amplifying or articulating what that really looks like. Even with the fear that feminine may reject it. Feminine opening up to masculine about what they are and they do not want. Even feeling that anxiety that masculine may reject it. That is that moment that is allowing for productivity. Because in that vulnerability, we don't see that amplifying of the negative. We see that it's allowing them to understand what is actually possible by defining the delimitations. What someone doesn't want is giving the clarity on what can occur. Masculine and feminine separation right now, the only way this doesn't work, you're seeing this, the only way this doesn't work is if one energy or the other does not allow that throat chakra to be healed, is moving in a place that they're either feeling like they are too afraid to reveal what they truly want, too afraid to speak towards that right now, or they refuse to share it because they feel that in the sharing there's no way that it will be accepted. I'm going to stress here, if they fear that there's something about what they express that they don't think there's going to be any possibility of being accepted, that's why this is the closing out of a karmic cycle. Because again, this is either each energy looking at each other, if they're not articulating on this right now, and saying either you don't know what you want, or you don't want to express what you want because you're so confident or fearful that it won't be accepted. That's literally the energy moving back into separation. But again, almost from a place of being like, I wish you the best. Because there isn't something that is functional there. Because either of those possibilities is not a functional territory through which to be able to grow any kind of divine union. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our World card in its in its upright, and our Two of Swords. Very productive cards to see together. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Yeah, the stability of the feminine is required to be able to have anything that feels like it is stable. It's, I don't know, it's masculine and feminine. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. The feminine energy here, it requires a stability point for the feminine. This is why we see that a lot of feminine energy, if they're not getting this from masculine right now, feminine's like, I'm good. It's cool. We're good. There's almost feminine being like, we don't even need to, there's almost a feminine being like, you know what, we don't, no. This could be a masculine trying to talk to feminine at this point. If there's anything coming from them but this, and this feminine being like, you don't need to say anything else. You don't need to say anything else, because this is feminine energy that's almost saying to masculine, the door is wide open. You're asking me to give you an open sesame. Feminine is almost saying to masculine, the door has never not been open. These are the conditions through which you can come through. This is like literally like feminine saying, you need these two things. If you don't have these two things, you can't come in. You can't come in. And that's feminine. That's why we see feminine's not arguing with masculine on this. Feminine's not deflecting. Feminine's saying, it's this simple. You either have the clarity of purpose and intentionality. You tell me what it is that you're seeking. You tell me what it is that you want. And this is feminine that says, I will either, all you need to do is provide these two things, and there is something potentially productive that can happen here, or at least we can move forward in some kind of productive fashion. If you don't, this is feminine being like, I don't really want to argue with you about it. There's nothing to argue about. There's no, this literally feminine going, this feminine going, especially if this is masculine trying to get more argumentative or deflect answering these two questions. This is feminine being like, it's okay. No, really. I've got some stuff to do. Feminine almost being like, I got some stuff to do. I wish you well. Because this is feminine being like, recognizing and being like, there's nothing productive that can happen without these two things being met. Masculine, you may be seeing this right now with some of the feminine energy. This isn't feminine energy that feels inclined to chase you for this information. This isn't feminine energy running after you to try to get this. This is feminine energy that's very, very happy and content to leave you where you are, anywhere you are, because this is a feminine energy that doesn't want to feel like they're dragging you onto their path work. This is feminine energy that's almost feeling content and being like, if they ever realize or they decide they know what they want, they know where I am, they know where I live, they know how to find me. But this is feminine saying, but they better, like, that's all there is to it. Masculine's like, oh, you may not realize this, masculine. Especially, you may be feeling right now, masculine, if you're coming out of separation to a certain feminine energy, you may be even saying, wow, that energy's changed. That's not the same energy. Because this is that moment of masculine saying, this is a feminine energy that isn't getting all twisted up if they're not getting something from someone. This is a feminine energy that just observes it's not there. This isn't a feminine energy that's like shaking that box of Cracker Jacks. This is a feminine energy that's like, what, like that feminine's like, I'm good. This feminine saying, I'm fine continuing forward in this capacity. Because feminine saying, looking with that aspiration and saying, I am seeking energy that is going to come in and provide that point of balance. Masculine, even at this moment right now, if you are providing this to a feminine, and you may even be recognizing that it is a feminine that's almost looking at something and being like, okay, well, this is what I am. This is what I am comfortable with. This is what I don't want. Having this point of productivity, even being able to recognize that this, you articulating what you want, isn't potentially leading to a full closure out of cycle. It's leading to a very productive conversation. That in itself may feel like a breakthrough, because again, it is recognizing a feminine energy that when they said, tell me what you want, and I'll tell you whether I'm available or open to it, or whether that's a hard pass for me. This is the feminine. You're recognizing that you're giving everything the feminine needs to be able to have a stable conversation with you that is allowing for some point of productivity. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. You're in this modality right now. You're further getting deeper. And again, one of the reasons that you're having this conversation right now is masculine. You're potentially recognizing that when, as the feminine energy gets more stable feeling, this changes. This adjusts. The shape of the relationship is adjusting, because this is a feminine energy that's almost saying like they're expanding as they feel more comfortable, as they feel more safe, as they feel more stable. This is a moment of realizing. This is why I was saying to the energy coming into divine union right now, you can never put the cart before the horse, because you can't force a feminine to be open to bigger possibilities and expanding what you're building with them relationship-wise if the feminine isn't in a point of stability. This is a feminine whose own landscape shifts and adjusts all the time. Feminine realizes that like the boundaries within the self, it's not a fence. It's like water. It grows, it shifts, it goes like this. And this is feminine almost saying to masculine and identifying the difference. And this is why we see here that some of these conversations are so intriguing that energy is having in divine union right now, is feminine's almost trying to say, again, if this is masculine being like, well, why did that happen now and this happened then? This is almost feminine trying to say to masculine being like, well, I wasn't in a flow state then. I didn't feel safe. So what does feminine do when they don't feel safe? Feminine's like, I wasn't feeling safe, so I put a wall up. This is feminine saying, my discernment, my self adjusts, it changes depending on where I am, on how I feel, on how safe I feel. This is feminine almost explaining to masculine that the feminine energy and experience shifts dramatically if the feminine feels safe enough to be able to be in their authentic expression of self. That flow state is not one that you can immediately lay a line in and say, this is it going forward. This is feminine saying, there is a softness on these edges. There is a flexibility here. This is a rubber band. It's not a wall. And the ability of the feminine to like move in that way, like that oceanic way, is the gift of the feminine, so long as you create an environment where the feminine feels stable enough to do so. Masculine and feminine in divine union. Masculine, you probably know this about your feminine. You realize that they've got a receding shoreline on and even now, feminine, you may be recognizing, and this is the value and import of the feminine that's in this modality that knows themselves a lot. Feminine energy sees the fact that they have a moving shoreline. And the important thing with feminine energy is feminine amplifying, not just that. This is why feminine is often more slow in terms of opening up about things, because even when feminine is amplifying their own thoughts and feelings, feminine is trying to identify whether they're having a moment that it is a short shoreline or it is a long shoreline. A good feminine energy, an energy of a feminine that is able to recognize their self, is one that knows where that extra space is, right? It knows where that modality space is, the shifting landscape. So we see here to a certain extent, even now, the energy and divine union, that ability of feminine to be more flexible, to be able to flow in this way. Masculine, you may be feeling the stability of a feminine, and this is why the masculine appreciates the feminine energy. This is masculine that helps masculine when they're feeling those points of lack of confidence, because this feminine going like, oh, your shoreline just pulled back. Your shoreline just pulled back. Get something to eat. Take a nap. Your shoreline will push back out. It'll come back. It's not gone forever. You're just having a minute. Just let it, give it. Again, that ability of feminine to realize that flow state is one that constantly ebbs and flows is the gift that feminine can provide the masculine, because feminine can help the masculine when they're in that feeling of doubting oneself and saying, you are having a moment and this moment shall pass, just like the wave. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Swords in combination with our Justice card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Wands in its reversal. This is not a big day of action. I just got to tell you guys. If you're waiting for something today is not the day you're going to get it coming through. Because what we're really seeing right now is this modality where it's like, I have to stress, this isn't a modality right now that isn't about taking action. This is a moment of consideration prior to taking some point of action. This is a moment of consideration. And this is what we see the divine union energy is, again, withholding right now, pulling back, calling back their energy to a certain extent to make sure that there is mutual energetic choice. There's a moment here that the energy has been moving in so many different modalities right now. That ability to kind of recollect itself, to be able to look at things, to have each other's perspective is what is allowing for balance prior to taking some point of action. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This ability is almost a moment that you may be experiencing a point that something that you were not able to discuss in the past is now being something that you're starting to be able to talk about more, because it is that moment that is discerning the difference about being able to have a difficult conversation that may have felt like it was off territory in the past due to the fact that you feel stable enough and balanced in the divine union partnership that you can experience a point of pushing your own boundaries and hurdles around difficult conversations. Masculine and feminine, remember, not putting carts before horses. Remember when I was talking about the energy of intentionality? There it is. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. The ability to talk about something that may have been hard to discuss before is being amplified right now. That's why we see that there is a huge possibility that there is some point of productivity, of energy and separation coming back into divine union right now. And it is being amplified in having a difficult conversation and seeing whether someone can look at what someone is identifying as a hurdle to see if this can be reached into a point of balance. If this is feminine that feels like masculine has not brought clarity of purpose and intentionality to the feminine, this is feminine that is pointing it out to see if this is masculine that's willing to offer that point of balance, or if masculine's insisting or refusing to provide it. The thing is, feminine doesn't need the masculine. The feminine realizes there's no world in which a masculine energy is going to say to them, I don't want to tell you that. I don't want to talk about that. What's going to happen around someone energetically that doesn't want to talk about something? They're going to try to change the topic. They're going to try to shift focus. They're going to try to start a fight. They're going to try to start a conflict. They're going to try to do anything possible rather than address the question or the inquiry that's being proposed. And this is why feminine right now is almost looking at something with a point of saying, either you're bringing balance into something or showing me that you refuse to discuss something. And what's happening right now is feminine. This is why feminine is not moving into a conflict modality, because this is feminine that if they see that the masculine is getting more confrontational, they see the confrontation as a point of a smoke screen. That the conflict itself is the smoke screen through which the masculine is potentially avoiding a conversation, which is why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, if they're feeling that already occurring, a masculine that's either not responding or creating a conflict point, this is feminine being like, I am willing to leave that where it is, because this is a masculine that's saying to me, without words, everything I need to hear. This is feminine energy saying, I recognize how to read between the lines. This is feminine energy saying, I understand that sometimes one needs to read between the lines because they're between the lines. And if an energy isn't willing to provide clarity and context, this is feminine that says, I am now validated to read between the lines because I am basically being forced to. So that's why we see, even for a lot of the feminine energy now, if this is a conversation, whereas in the masculine's not providing this clarity, and vice versa right now. I will say there may be some masculine energy going through a similar experience with some feminine energy, wherein if you've asked for this clarity and the feminine isn't providing it, you yourself are also taking up this modality of potentially reading between the lines, because these energies right now are very much reflecting each other. This is that moment that's either leading to a point, a breakthrough, having that clarity, having those difficult conversations, or it's leading to a very smooth transition out of something, I will say. Because this is someone that is smoothly transitioning away, immediately healing a karmic connection by saying, there's no need to proceed. I've seen everything I need to see. The lack of clarity is the clarity. Someone is either not willing or they're not ready. They're either not willing or they're not ready. And the important thing is this is not energy that's sticking around to try to figure out the difference between not willing or not ready. This is the recognition that either of those modalities lead to the same conclusion. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Queen of Pentacles. May I please get one card to clarify? What did I say? Breakthroughs or endings right now. Breakthroughs or endings. It is a simple calculation. This is feminine energy right now. Effectively, again, and I have to say, for a lot of the masculine energy right now, this may feel like this is a feminine that's not necessarily coming from the heart space. I think that's the only problem around this right now, masculine, is you're potentially realizing that this is not a feminine energy that's allowing their heart to guide them. This has nothing to do with love right now. This is feminine energy saying, like, the love, if you're having this conversation, the love is assumed. Feminine wouldn't even be moving in this modality if there wasn't that level or care of purpose here. Like, feminine's like, love has nothing to do with this right now. This is feminine energy saying, again, I am either in a modality where we create together or we don't create at all. It doesn't matter what shape that is. You have to give the intentionality of purpose. You have to give the feminine that ability to decide, because that's the difference of a feminine feeling stable, feeling like their choice is prioritized, their ability to be able to choose, versus an energy of feminine that feels more like they have to fit into a mode. They have to like force themselves into something to be able to maintain some kind of relationship with someone. And this is feminine coming through their own healing cycle, because this is feminine energy almost saying to masculine, I refuse to be in a modality where I run myself ragged trying to figure out what you want me to be without you telling me what that is. This is feminine saying that is over. That modality of me just transforming at every moment into whatever I think you might desire without you telling me is over. It's over. We don't do that. Feminine's like, I am not a shapeshifter for your desire. This is feminine saying the only modality, and this is why feminine is potentially moving away right now from masculine that's not being articulate on this. This is feminine saying, I do not exist just to fulfill whatever you think you need at that moment. I am a real person. I am a real thing. I have a point that I require to be stable. Feminine's like, I want something that is stable in whatever modality that is. And the stability does not come from following a certain template. It comes from the act of choice. It comes from the act of looking at feminine as co-creator in what you are creating, as opposed to someone that just needs to fit into whatever you want them to be. And this is why we see feminine right now is moving right now towards masculine if in separation and saying, which one are you? Are you seeking someone? Are you seeking that level of stability? I can provide that. Feminine saying, I've got that. I can be whatever you want me to be, but I need to know what that is first. I need to get to decide if I want to be that. But feminine saying, I'm not just going to sit here and wait to take up the notes and try to figure out what to become perfect for you based on what I think you want because you won't tell me. This is feminine saying that's over, because this is feminine going through the internal process and separation and saying, that's feminine saying it's over, not to masculine. That's feminine saying it's over within the self. Feminine says, I know I can do that. I don't do that anymore. Feminine's like, I can make you think. Feminine's literally saying to themselves, I could make this person think I could be anybody. This is feminine energy being like, I could become anything. But feminine's like, I don't do that. This is feminine saying, no, we don't do that anymore. I'm no longer in that modality. This may have been more fun, but this is where I am now. And this is feminine looking at masculine if in separation and saying, would you like that? Because it starts with you telling me what it is that you truly seek, so we can discern and determine if there is something productive going forward. And what we are seeing right now with masculine is masculine, you may be experiencing this on the part of the feminine. And this is why we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now, it may feel like there's a lot of feminine energy that has really shifted. Masculine energy, if you're approaching some feminine right now, this could feel like you've seen a huge shift in this energy, potentially even by the way that the feminine is conducting themselves right now. And it's feeling like a lot more of a feminine that comes through as much more grounded, because again, this is a feminine energy. And it's not just necessarily a feminine energy that says that they know what they want. They know what they don't want. And we see here that feminine energy kind of calling you forth in this way, it is creating, and even for the energy right now that is coming into union through this, it feels like a moment of breakthrough, but it also feels like an ending, because it's that moment of saying that the only way to be able to go forward is if there is a shift. So for the masculine energy that's moving back towards feminine in this modality right now, it is the recognition of, again, that point of accountability and saying, well, the way that we were moving in the past was incorrect. Having that point of accountability, saying, I understand that the position I was putting you in was less than ideal. I understand, I can recognize why my own ability of not telling you what I want and not letting you have that point of choice was creating a point that you may not necessarily have been your best version of self. Because masculine, if you're in that modality, you're recognizing that you weren't giving feminine energy the stability that they needed to be able to anticipate what they were going to get. So for the energy right now in that modality, this does feel like for masculine, this also feels, for feminine, this feels like a breakthrough internally. And it is coming through almost like with something that could feel akin to an ego death, because it's, again, letting go of the past self. Masculine, this could also be in that modality right now, because you're feeling right now that, again, you need to go through your own egoic journey and realize that shift needs to also occur in you as well. And it starts by you being vulnerable and open to the feminine. Masculine and feminine in divine union frequency, this ability right now, this recognition point, having this modality is almost creating a point, masculine, that you may be experiencing right now, that the energy, the reason you're moving into a deepening part of partnership is almost seeing this feminine energy right now changing. That you're already seeing the fact that having the stability that you're creating right now for the feminine is creating a shift in the feminine. It's grounding the energy more, and it's feeling more positive and productive, and you're potentially recognizing that a feminine energy moves in a different way. You're seeing that transformation, and it may feel very positive for masculine, this modality right now, because you're seeing the value and recognition that what you're creating with the feminine is allowing the feminine to come into a more stable version of themselves. And even that right now, you're finding a new version of yourself in the process. So a lot of this beautiful energetic shift occurring, but it does feel like it feels heavy. It feels like you're leaving the past behind as you move forward in this way. Masculine and feminine coming that are in the divine union frequency, this ability to recognize what needs to be shed and what needs to be moved forward is a constant growth moment. And even for masculine and feminine right now in the divine union, it's recognizing that you're always shifting, that energy is not one that you stay stagnant in. It's one that's like constantly requiring attention, recalibration. Feminine right now in this modality, this ability of identifying, and this is why we see that a lot of feminine energy in the divine union frequency is not moving as reactionarily as they may have in the past. Feminine, much like we said for the energy coming into the frequency right now, is recognizing that they're addressing and looking at the past, and they're looking at their past self. They're taking accountability for who they were in the past, but almost looking at being like, I can't do those things the way I used to do them because that's not how I move anymore. And this is that moment of feminine, almost again, letting go of the past and amplifying how much more stable they're becoming in the divine union frequency. Because again, even the feminine energy's ability to look at masculine and explain the modalities, explain that movement back and forth, is almost showing feminine the fact that they are no longer under the sway of that. This is a feminine energy that can almost observe their own waters. They're not just at the behest of them. Masculine and feminine. Masculine, seeing a feminine in this modality. Seeing a feminine energy that almost can look at themselves from that point of objectivity and recognize when they're not being in their best self or what they want to do. That ability of feminine to do that is, again, almost allowing masculine as well to have these moments that it's not the fact that masculine isn't feeling devastated. It's feminine's almost there as they're doing it. And this is feminine almost looking at masculine. Masculine's like laying on the floor and being like, do you want a cookie? Would you like some water? This is masculine. This is feminine energy right now that's like helping the masculine in this moment by almost amplifying the masculine, being, I know this feels very like, I know you feel like this is a really, really hard moment, but this is almost feminine energy saying you're going to be able to get back up. This is just momentary. This is not a permanent feeling that you're feeling right now. You just need to give yourself, you just need to drink a little water. You just need to have a little snacky snack. This is almost feminine saying to masculine, this is a nap. You're taking a little nap right now. This is all you need to help you move through this right now, because this is feeling more egoic, right? So this is the feminine, even now as masculine's feeling this moment, having that care and cultivation of feminine around them as they go through it is helping the masculine realize that they just need a couple days to recover. They just need a few days to come back into themselves. So that is what we see that's really amplified right now for the energy in the divine union. Masculine, you may be feeling again energy right now coming into coming into divine union. Masculine, this is you transforming at the same time as the feminine. Energy and separation, this is feminine basically saying, tell me what this is so that we can see if we're moving forward. Because the moment, more than anything, this is feminine amplifying to masculine. There is a path forward, but there needs to be an observation of what was happening in the past. Needs to end. It needs to stop. We don't move in that way anymore. Continuing to get clarification between our Queen of Pentacles in combination with our Eight of Wands in its reversal. This is the problem right now, and this is what we're seeing again. This is really interesting. Masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency. This modality right now. What did I say is happening? What did I say was the difference in recognizing what feels like a trigger that is confronted versus a trigger that is causing a point of reactivity? It's not the fact that there aren't triggers that are potentially being struck today. It is more the ability of not allowing oneself to be triggered in it. The ability to pause, the ability to confront those things that are triggering you, to be able to look at the trigger in the face, to be able to hold fast in that moment instead of allowing it to propel you forward in a way that doesn't feel like it is in alignment with your highest self, is something that the energies are learning right now. Feminine specifically is going through this to a large degree right now. And feminine's own ability to look at something, and I need to stress this is the most important thing about this. What is feminine doing right now? Feminine is potentially, this is how the feminine energy in the modality of, again, separation and even in divine union is going through something right now. This is feminine looking at something that in the past they may have realized and felt like was much more devastating. That may have felt like it would have crippled the feminine energy. It would have devastated the feminine energy. This is feminine energy going, it's just a roadblock. It's just a pebble in the path. No, that's nothing that we need to be concerned about. That is something that can be overcome. Feminine energies right now, ability to look through their own, this is why we saw the feminine, what did we say the feminine was doing energetically over the last few weeks? Confronting situations that may have brought out their worst version of self in the past, but now being able to face them and not necessarily flinch, is showing that this is a feminine energy that is not allowing themselves, that is looking themselves, continuing this work of facing their own triggers, facing their own fears, facing their own coping mechanisms, their bad modalities of thought, their unhealthy connections, karmic connections. And this is not a feminine energy that flinches in the face of them. This is feminine energy going, oh, you again. Okay, no, I know what this is. This is feminine energy being like, wait, you just step over this. You just duck under this one. You just go left over here. Because this is feminine energy that is not allowing themselves to move from that fear modality so much as feminine is moving very much in that practical space and saying, I'm just looking at something from a practical point and trying to identify what is trying to elicit a fear reaction within me versus what is something that is just something that can be navigated around. Masculine, seeing a feminine energy in this modality, seeing a feminine energy that doesn't run for cover when things get difficult, but is more like looks at something and almost gets more inquisitive. Like again, like in the haunted house when the thing pops up and goes, boo, this isn't a feminine energy that runs in the other direction and goes, how'd you do that? Oh, that's really cool. Whoa, is this connected by wires? Wait, hold on. I need to get a little closer. A feminine energy that's able to take that point, to see that trigger and to approach it with a point of curiosity, trying to see just how to like practically overcome it, in a way helps a masculine as well, because this is a masculine that is able to see things from the perspective of a feminine, and that in itself is taking something that may, again, this is feminine almost disarming the masculine energy's own anxiety at this point. Because this is a feminine saying, I'm not afraid of this, I'm not concerned about this, and neither should you. This is feminine, again, facing those internal issues, facing those internal coping mechanisms, saying, this is a feminine energy saying to masculine, I've faced those parts of myself. I can help you when you start to feel them as well. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union. This is that moment of, again, having a point of productivity around triggering situations. Masculine, you may be feeling right now a moment that feminine is opening up to you and revealing things to you in a way that feel like you want to run in the other direction. Because at that moment, you're experiencing your own internal trigger. Feminine is forcing difficult conversations from you. Feminine is forcing you to a certain extent to face your own hurdles, your own internal hurdles. But again, that ability right now of feminine to look towards the masculine, even if coming into divine union right now, and say, we have the ability to have a hard conversation. If we don't have the ability to have a hard conversation, then we don't have anything at all. This is a feminine masculine that's immediately feeling in a way that, again, that you are also growing and shifting into this divine union, because this is, again, a feminine that does not flinch from a hard conversation. This is a feminine energy that looks at something and says, even this provides an opportunity of productivity. Let's unpack it. And this is almost a feminine that doesn't want, and this is the important thing, this is not a feminine energy that doesn't want masculine not to pretend that something isn't difficult. This is feminine energy that says, if this is hard for you to talk about, we need to talk about why it's hard to talk about. Let's unpack that as well. Let's get to the bottom of that trigger. Let's deactivate that trigger. Masculine and feminine in separation. This is why we see the feminine right now is moving towards masculine with an ability to look at masculine and say, are you able and willing to have a hard conversation? This is feminine this is almost feminine confronting the masculine in this way right now, because again, this is feminine that realizes that even in separation right now, it's not the fact that this isn't difficult. Having that modality right now, this is feminine that's already pointing out to masculine that they see that something is here that is requiring something to be addressed. This is feminine saying, I'm not going to pretend that the thing that isn't being addressed isn't there. This is feminine confronting that and saying, no. I'm not going to pretend that the red flag is there. I'm not going to pretend that the unhealthy part of this isn't here. We're going to confront it right now. We're going to address it before it has time to take root between us. We're going to face it as they occur instead of just trying not to look the other way. Feminine's like, I'm done looking the other way when I see something that's starting to be problematic. This is a feminine that's almost amplifying the masculine if trying to come in separation. This is a feminine energy that says to masculine, make no mistake, the thing that I've learned is I will not turn a blind eye. I will not turn a blind eye. This is feminine saying, if you are asking me to turn a blind eye to something that I see, this is feminine saying, then that is that point that we are no longer able to be together. That is why feminine's saying now, tell me what you want. Show me what you think is so bad that you feel like you'd rather not discuss it than tell it to me. Because this is feminine saying the only thing that is potentially going to lead to us coming into inseparable deviation is if I'm telling you I see something here that requires work and you're telling me that it's not there. Continuing to get clarification. Masculine, seeing this on the part of a feminine is helping you, again, if you're in separation. Even in separation, it may be feeling like a breakthrough because, again, this is not a feminine energy that shies away from a difficulty. This is a feminine energy that will call a spade, a spade, a spade. This is feminine energy, calls it like they see it. This is feminine energy. It's like, I won't wait on this. I'm not going to hold on this. No, we're not going to talk about this next week. We need to address it now. And feminine's almost saying, if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. When you're ready to talk about it, you know where to find me. Because the only thing that isn't happening right now, and this is why masculine, having that ability right now to confront the self, and if there's something here that you're not willing to talk to about feminine, it's feeling like an internal journey. Because it's almost this moment that you may be feeling and realizing that you're coming into separation if you're not willing to talk about this and saying, this isn't a feminine energy. This is a feminine energy that basically said that as soon as I'm ready to talk about it, they're there to talk about it. And that's the moment, masculine, that you're realizing that this may be feeling like an internal battle because you're now asking yourself, what is this thing that feminine wants to talk about that you may be feeling unwilling to talk about so much that it's become a rupture point, a point between you that you feel like it's literally like a wall that you can't express to the feminine. For a lot of the masculine energy, having this hard conversation right now, talking about the thing that is hard for you to discuss, is immediately allowing for healing to come through because that is the breakthrough. Because this is a feminine that isn't flinching as you do so. They're just hearing you out. And even recognizing that that feminine has the ability to do that, not run in the other direction, but being able to hold space for you as you talk about something that is hard to talk about is feeling like a breakthrough point, regardless of whether it leads to divine union or not. Continuing, because the union is now becoming a union within the self. Final cards for today's spread. Look at these two cards today, guys. Heavy conversations today. Heavy conversations, heavy convos, okay? This is heavy. But between 10 of Swords, Devil card, one card to clarify, Knight of Cups, this is okay. Masculine and feminine, in divine union, this moment, this modality that we are seeing, is again, masculine energy in divine union right now. This is that moment that there's a lot of heaviness right now coming through on this. A lot of potential heaviness. And this is what we're seeing. Some of this is just coming from a lot masculine energy. If you're feeling like this today, just remember this is actually feeling like a lot of energetic exhaustion. I really want a lot of the masculine energy right now, if in divine union, to ask if you've been taking enough time for self-care right now. Because what this is really amplifying is almost, I have to stress, this is going to feel to a certain extent like masculine energy, even in divine union right now, may feel a bit out of spoons. If you don't know what out of spoons means, go look it up. This is just that moment that it may feel masculine, like you don't have a lot of energy to give to other energy around you right now. But again, recognizing even now that that is okay, is a moment that is amplifying that this is a point for masculine, that is masculine feeling very triggered, and that trigger is almost immediately leading for like a sense or a state of a desire for deep rest right now. Recognizing that this is momentary and that often the best thing you can do is follow the modalities of one's own self. Allow yourself that moment of rest is not a point of weakness, it's just fulfilling a spiritual need. Feminine, you may be seeing this around divine energy right now. Around divine masculine energy and divine union of a masculine that's confronting a lot of things right now. And masculine may be feeling really hard on themselves about it. But this is feminine almost trying to show masculine that the reason they're feeling so energetically drained right now is because they're dealing, look what's on the masculine energy's back. You're dealing with hard things. This is that feminine being like, I see it. I see what you're dealing with. This is feminine almost saying you don't need to worry about that because I see it. Because why? Because I have to stress. And this, you want to see why you have to masculine. You want to see what you want to see why you need to talk to your feminine energy, because what does this look like without this here? It just looks like that. If you're not opening up, feminine doesn't understand why. The divine union energy understands exactly what the masculine energy is facing on an energetic, spiritual, emotional level. If masculine has a day where they're not able to have spoons, it's because masculine has given feminine the observation point of understanding the context through which masculine's in that modality. That's why we see here that the feminine energy is coming to support the masculine, even if the masculine doesn't have a lot to be able to give towards the feminine right now. Feminine energy is looking at masculine that's open in this way, even when they're not able to offer that, and say, I get it. Masculine and feminine. Masculine, this is you effectively matching, if you're coming into divine union, the feminine energy. Because again, for a lot of the masculine energy, this is feminine energy that is starting to show you sides of themselves that you haven't seen before, telling you some difficulties, showing you like what's under the surface, if you will, the parts of themselves that aren't just what they give the rest of the world. These are the things that like are actually, those deeper elements of each other. And masculine, this is why we see that this is such a transformational moment if you're coming into divine union right now, because this is that moment that you realize and recognize you may be having a lot of heavy, hard, difficult conversations with the feminine, specifically due to the fact that we're recognizing that this is you showing them the burdens that you carry, the traumas, those moments that, again, you may feel to a certain extent that are so hard to reveal to others. And it may feel a lot like, in a way, you're shedding your own ego in front of this feminine energy, because, again, these are things that you may have felt the anxiety of revealing to others in the past because they're not pretty. Much like the feminine has been revealing things to you, and this is masculine now matching feminine coming into divine union. Again, the energy that did not shy away from feminine, showing them those harder elements of themselves, those things that they don't necessarily feel as proud of, or they feel more vulnerable on. This is masculine matching feminine in that degree, because now they realize that this is a feminine that says, show me those things, because I just showed you mine. Feminine saying, these are ours now. I can hold space for them. You don't need to be perfect with me. You just need to be honest. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see, even in this modality right now, this may feel like a huge breakthrough moment for a lot of energy and separation coming towards feminine right now. Because these are not pretty conversations that are being had. These are difficult conversations. These are conversations, masculine, that you may be revealing things to feminine that you may have not necessarily felt open to expressing in the past. Actually being able to heal something and confront one's own self in the past, because your ability right now not to say what you think the feminine wants to hear, but instead truly speaking from a point of honesty. It may feel right now difficult, because masculine, even in this modality right now, not just amplifying what you think feminine wants from you, but speaking truly from a place that you fear that point of rejection may come. You're recognizing that even that modality is recognizing that feminine energy typically is not in a point where someone speaks honestly towards them and they outrightly reject it. That as long as you're doing so in a way that feels like it is mindful and considerate and offering feminine an observation of choice as it relates to what you're seeking versus what they're seeking, that's always that moment that allows for some point of renewal. It allows for some point of progress, and it's almost helping you see potentially in the past why not doing that may have caused some friction points. Because it's almost that moment of being able to see the feminine's perspective on something that is now adjusting your own. Feminine, seeing a masculine right now that isn't trying to sugarcoat something. They're not just giving you wordplay. They're not just saying something to you that they think that they want to hear, but they're telling you what they truly desire, and also telling you why they didn't come forward with that before, is almost an observation point in feeling to a certain extent that, again, even seeing a masculine energy progressing on their journey in this way feels like a breakthrough, in regardless of whatever fashion it's coming through. This is why it feels like so much karmic healing is happening right now, because the ability of a masculine to come forward in this way, to confront themselves, and even to have acknowledgement in relation to something that they see within themselves that they can adjust and modify and change going forward, that in itself feels like a breakthrough, because for feminine, that feels like it is helping masculine confront the parts of themselves that they may not necessarily have seen before in a way that feels more productive and healing. That's why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy right now, the only place and space wherein feminine is ending and concluding a journey with masculine is one in which they feel that the masculine is refusing to come towards them with this sense of choice, is refusing to approach the feminine in acknowledging the opportunity of allowing the feminine what the feminine is asking for, meaning clarity and intentionality of purpose. Not being able to provide feminine those things is immediately leading to a final, like potentially a final conclusion of a karmic journey, because that's a feminine saying, you're not coming to me from a space of empathy and care. You're just coming towards me to fulfill your own needs. And feminine says, we are moving away from that. This is not a modality where I am receptive to an energy that desires and is only willing to let me be a space where their needs are fulfilled. There needs to be a modality where we are co-creators in determining what that path looks like as we move towards a form of divine union. Bottom of the deck on this reading today is 5 of Swords. You'd think after this Mercury retrograde, anything from the past would be all buttoned up. But no. A lot of the past coming back to the surface right now. This is a lot of this energy right now, because again, we're seeing for the energy right now in the divine union frequency. Again, this healing, this approach to things is almost requiring a lot of intentional unpacking right now. It's fixing. Sometimes to fix the past, we have to make a little messiness in the present. This is giving a lot of that energy of like rearranging your room by pulling out all the drawers, yanking everything out, but you're doing that because you're rearranging the room. And that ability of recognizing that you're in the frequency of divine union is allowing a lot of this intentional unpacking right now. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is reaching new levels of understanding of each other's past that you may not necessarily feel like you had the full nuance on. Because again, you may have had the broad stroke on some things, and this is that moment of going deeper into the past, because now you're getting those deeper points of clarification. You're seeing things with more optics. You're unpacking things together because you feel vulnerable and safe enough to do so. It's still messy. It can be unpleasant, much like the energy in the divine union frequency. In separation right now, this is a lot of that moment. We see a lot of energy potentially from the past trying to come back towards each other right now, because you feel like you've progressed enough on your healing journey that you may feel ready to. The key around that right now is really identifying whether something has come through ready to heal, or if it's just coming back in the way that it left. Because we see here that there's a lot of energy that would desire to be in union, but it needs that point of requiring and not necessarily, leaving off on something and assuming everything's going to be okay, because time doesn't fix things. Healing of the self fixes things. Taking new approaches fixes things. And that ability right now to ascertain and recognize and have a productive conversation on what can change is effectively the differentiation of returning and allowing something from the past back in with the sense that it can be something new. Transformation. Or if this is just a repetition of a cycle, which we see nobody wants to have. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow. It's heavy.